You know what I did with my horse last week? Nothing useful. We went out to the large field. I unclipped the lead rope and we just wandered around for about 40 minutes with no agenda, no plan, and no training goals. We just did whatever we wanted to. We had no lesson plan and we weren't planning on recording it in a training log. We were just two beings out in a field on a sunny summer afternoon, doing only what we felt like doing. And it was genuinely one of the best horse days I've had in months and maybe even longer. So today, I want to talk about play, real play, the kind that has no point. It's the kind your horse needs. And if we're honest with ourselves, we need it too. So pull up a hay bale. This one's a good one. There's a thing our culture does that I've been thinking about a lot lately. It tells us that more is always better, that productivity and money are the measure of a life well lived. Rest is something you earn only after you've done enough. And it seems a lot of us were raised to believe that doing enough doesn't even get us rest. We glorify busy in this culture. We wear exhaustion like some type of badge. There's even a saying that goes, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And that somehow has now become a motivational statement instead of the warning that it actually is. This culture gets into the horse world too. There's pressure put on young horses to perform earlier and earlier. There's a race to get to the show ring for horses and riders both. And of course, there's always the race to the track for racehorses and a race to the ribbons before the horse's body or mind is actually ready for any of it. And we have all seen what that costs. The injuries, some of them are catastrophic. Some horses burn out or break down before they've even had a chance to be horses. And then there's the ones that have injuries that occur in their first few years of life that will limit everything that comes later. More, faster, better, produce, produce, produce. That's the mantra. It's everywhere, and most of us absorbed it so early and so thoroughly that we don't even notice it's running in the background anymore. We just feel vaguely guilty when we're not doing enough, when the horse isn't being worked, when we took a week off from riding and training, when we spent an hour at the barn and didn't accomplish anything that's measurable. Here's what I want to say about all of that. It's just not true. It never was true. And in midlife, a lot of us are finally ready to stop buying into it. There comes a time of undoing. And one of the things that happens in midlife gradually, and I think very beautifully, is that we start to undo some of this programming. It doesn't happen overnight, and often it's not without some friction along the way. We've been operating on a particular kind of fuel for a long time, and changing that takes some time to adjust. Retirement causes a lot of people to struggle so profoundly when they stop working because their entire identity has been built around their jobs and careers and the productivity that's associated with it. And when that stops, they don't know who they are anymore. And a lot of that can feel like personal failure, but it isn't. It's what happens when a culture spends 50 years telling you that what you produce is what you're worth. But here's the other side of it. The people who lean into this transition, who allow themselves to actually rest and play, explore, follow their curiosity, and don't impose limits on it, those are the people that are often the ones who find something they didn't even know was missing. It could be described as a lightness or a sense of actively being in their life. And we get to do that with horses too. And I think that for a lot of midlife women, horse life is where this undoing happens first. Because horses have this way of insisting on your presence when you're with them that clocks and calendars don't have anything to do with. Your horse does not care about your to-do list. She cares whether or not you're actually there with her, being with her. So what does it look like to just play? It looks different for everyone, and that's absolutely the point. There is not one way to do it, no one correct way, no one-size-fits-all version. For some of us, it means getting on and going out hacking with no plan, taking a trail you've never taken, or riding through a field you've always just ridden past, or just pointing your horse in a direction and seeing what's out there. No lesson structure is required, no movements to practice, no list of things to check off, just riding for the pure pleasure and sensation of it. For some of us, play will mean trying something that's completely outside our usual discipline. When you have ridden one discipline for years, decades even, your whole body knows how to do it. It's like a language. Your position, your aids, and your instincts are all calibrated for that specific way of riding. And then you try something different, and suddenly you're a beginner all over again. Everything just feels slightly wrong in a way that you haven't felt in years. Your body doesn't know where to put itself or what to do. And of course, the horse responds differently too. It's disorienting in a way that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it for themselves. And here's what I think about that feeling of being disoriented. It's wonderful. It means you're learning. The brain is doing something new, and you've stepped outside the groove you've worn into this sport and found that there's a whole wider world of horsemanship just sitting right there, adjacent to the path you've been on. It can look a lot of ways. The dressage rider who tries a trail obstacle course and discovers that her horse is genuinely brave in ways that were not revealed in that sand arena. The hunter jumper rider who goes team penning one night and laughs harder than she has in years because it's just genuinely fun. Or the rider who has competed her whole life, who spends a summer doing nothing competitive at all and realizes she loves being with her horse more for changing it up. A beginner's mind is a wonderful thing. Curiosity does not have an expiration date. Trying something new at 50 or 60 or 70 is one of the genuine privileges of having enough life behind you to stop caring whether or not you look like you know what you're doing. Now I want to talk about something I explored in an earlier episode called Unridden Joy. And if you haven't listened to that one, I'll put it in the show notes because it goes deeper into this, but I want to touch on it here because it belongs to this conversation about play. Not all of the joy lives in the saddle. I know we all know this, and I also know that a lot of us still feel a low level guilt about the barn time that doesn't involve riding. It might be a grooming session that became the whole visit, or an afternoon that you just sat in the pasture, or the hour that you spent doing nothing more purposeful than watching your horse eat while hand grazing. There is no just in any of that. The physiological benefits of being around horses, from lower cortisol and regulated heartbeat, and the particular calm that comes from being in the presence of this large animal that is completely at peace, none of those things require you to be in the saddle. The aromatherapy of a warm coat in the summer sun, a nicker at the gate, or that little greeting wuffle that they do. There's a meditative quality in a barn where nothing urgent is happening. Play, rest, joy. Every one of these are important. There's also liberty work, if that interests you, or doing groundwork that isn't about training anything in particular, but just about being together in a different way. Or maybe teaching your horse something like a silly trick because it's fun. My horse is working on giving hugs, which is exactly as delightful as it sounds. The spa day that includes a bath and maybe a braid in the forelock or a massage becomes the whole day. Or even a grooming session where you're not rushing to get it done so that you can tack up, because grooming is the thing. These are not in any way lesser versions of horse ownership or of spending time with your horse. These are horse ownership, deeply satisfying ways of being with your horse. Full experiences, legitimate all by themselves. Here's the thing though, and this is a thing that kind of runs underneath all of this. A lot of women come back to horses in midlife, or they may have stayed with horses through midlife. And this is sometimes after years of putting it and themselves last. After decades of meeting everyone else's needs first, whether that's kids, partners, careers, parents, the endless logistics of a full life where your own joy kept getting rescheduled. And then things change. The kids leave, the career eases up a bit, or you retire. The version of yourself that got set aside before starts reclaiming her time. If that's where you are, if you're just now reclaiming this or giving yourself permission to actually prioritize it, I want you to hear this part so clearly. You are not being selfish. You're being sensible. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and most of us spent a lot of years having that proven to us the hard way. Your horse time is not indulgent, and it's not a reward that you have to earn by being productive enough in every other area of your life first. It's a legitimate, soul-nourishing, genuinely important part of who you are. The joy you feel in a barn or out on a trail ride, or maybe even just sitting in a pasture with a horse grazing next to you. That joy has real benefits to you, physiologically, emotionally, and in ways that ripple out into every other part of your life. Protecting it isn't selfish. Protecting it is wisdom. And if after listening to this episode, you feel like you have permission to do that, to play more, to rest more, to prioritize joy more in your life, then I am glad you found your way here today. In closing, play and joy do not need to be justified. And your horse, the one that's standing in a paddock somewhere right now, probably doing absolutely nothing useful, he's not wasting away. He's just being a horse. And maybe for a little while, that's exactly what we need to do too. Just be. Go play. Try something different. Sit in a field. No agenda required. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode resonated, I hope you'll join me again next week as we continue riding through this season together. Until then, take good care of yourself and your horse.